all open intervals are also open sets, thankfully. How complicated can an arbitrary open set look like? In this module, we shall answer this question. I'll directly state the theorem. Theorem: any open set G subset of R is a countable union of open intervals. Here countable of course includes the possibility of finite. Proof. First, if G is empty, nothing to prove. Nothing to prove. Because the empty set is trivially an interval by our definition of an open interval, and there's nothing to prove. G is just the union of just one open interval, which is an empty set. Suppose G is non-empty. We have to show that G is a union of open intervals and there are only countable many such open intervals. How do we do this? Well, consider the relation tilde on G defined by A is related to B if and only if the closed interval minimum of A comma B comma maximum of A comma B, this is a subset of G. So consider 2 points AB, look at their minimums, look at their maximums, and look at the closed interval created by the minimum and maximum. A is related to B if and only if this minimum comma maximum is a subset of G. Now, as you can guess, what I am going to prove is that this is an equivalence relation. Tilde is an equivalence relation. How do we show this? Well, A is clearly related to A because the closed interval A comma A is just the singleton set A, which is obviously going to be a subset of G. So reflexivity is obvious. Similarly, if A is related to B, then obviously B is related to A, right? Because this minimum of AB comma maximum of AB will be the same. Now suppose if A is related to B and B is related to C, then note that minimum of AB comma minimum of BC, this closed interval, and minimum of BC comma minimum of maximum, here I made a mistake, this is maximum of B, maximum of AB, and minimum of BC comma maximum of BC, both are going to be subsets of, both of these are going to be subsets of G. Okay. Now, this is best proved by just giving a simple picture. We can assume that A is like this, B is like this, C is like this. That's one case. Well, we already know that this closed interval is a subset of G and this closed interval is also a subset of G. So consequently, this subset A comma C is a subset of C also, because it's just the union of the closed interval AB and closed interval BC. Now similarly, there are other possible configurations of ABC, and in each one of those you can trivially see that it will always be the case that minimum of AC comma minimum of comma maximum of AC is always going to be a subset of G. So depending on the relative positions of ABC, it is easy to see that minimum of AC comma maximum of AC closed interval is a subset of G. Okay, please finish this argument, it's rather easy. So now that we have an equivalence relation, let's CA denote the equivalence class of A. Okay, now what will happen if you take union of CA? What will happen if you take union of CA? Well, I just call this IA. I define IA to be union of CA. Okay. First observe that if B comma C are elements of IA, then this interval B comma C, if B is less than C, or C comma B if C is less than B, both are, not both, one of them is a subset of G. Right? In fact, one of them would be, I will not say subset of G, that's not clear, will be a subset of IA, therefore a subset of G. Why will it be a subset of IA? Simply because look at the definition of this equivalence relation. It says that the minimum of the two comma maximum of the two should be a subset of G. Therefore, if you take these points B comma C coming from IA, that means if you look at the minimum of B comma C, that comma maximum of B comma C should also be in IA, and that will just follow from transitivity when you apply it with the third element A. Okay, so in any case, please check this also. This is also fairly easy to see. Fine. So what has happened is IA is a connected set. IA is a connected set. Okay, not only that, IA is a connected set, it is a connected set that is not a singleton set. Why is that? Because this set G is open, so A minus epsilon comma A plus epsilon will be a subset of G, and you can clearly see that this will also have to be a subset of IA. Okay, where this epsilon is suitably small. Now, because of this fact that A minus epsilon comma A plus epsilon will be a subset of G, and therefore a subset of IA, it follows that IA is in fact a connected open set. Fine. So what have we got? What we have got is the following. We have got for each A a possibly infinite open interval. Okay, so to be 100% precise, I must say countable union of open intervals possibly infinite. I am allowing intervals where one or both endpoints could be infinity. So you could have the closed interval minus infinity comma c, sorry, the open interval minus infinity comma c, or the open interval c comma plus infinity. Those are allowed in this theorem. Okay, so coming back to the proof, what we have is for each a possibly infinite open interval ia. Now if a comma b are not related, then ia intersect ib is empty. Okay, ia intersect ib is empty. Why is this the case? Well, if not, then it is easy to see that there exists c in ia intersect ib such that a is related to c and b is related to c, which implies a is related to c. A is related to b. Okay, so if it were the case that ia intersect ib is not empty, then in fact I need not write there exists, then for all. Then if you take some c in this intersection of ia and ib, then that c will be related to both a and b. Therefore a and b are related, which is not possible. Okay, so what we have managed to do is we have shown that G is a disjoint union of the IAs, which I will denote by this square cup. Disjoint union of various IAs. Okay, so what I am doing is I am essentially going to pick one element G and look at the equivalence class CA and take the union and get IA, then take another element B which is not related to A, then I will get another interval. In this way I can exhaust G as a disjoint union of open intervals. Okay, so better to actually say G is the union of the collections IA such that IA comes from G, and this is a partition. This is a partition of G. Okay, so any two elements in this collection IA such that A comes from G will either be disjoint or will be equal. So therefore this will form a partition. So we have managed to write G as a countable union, not a countable union, as a disjoint union of intervals. So in fact we have got some things stronger than what we have stated. So let's put that is a countable disjoint union of open intervals, possibly infinite. So we have strengthened. In fact, that's what I wanted to set out to prove. I just forgot mentioning that this is going to be a disjoint union. Okay, so now we have got G as the union. Why is it countable? Well, I'm going to produce a list for you. How am I going to produce a list? Choose for each IA a rational number. RA. Okay, then all the different members, there are many of them that coincide simply because this is a partition. So if IA intersect IB is non-empty, then IA is equal to IB. What I do is I just choose one interval, one IA. If there is a different IA, then I put it there. If there is another IA that is the same, then I discard it. So that means I'm just looking at all the distinct members of this. I can just write it as I can consider a map F from this collection IA to Q, and that is given by this IA gets mapped to RA. Okay, IA gets mapped to RA, and this map is injective. This map is injective. This map is injective because in this collection IA I am explicitly discarding the repeated members. Okay, now show that the elements of this collection IA can be listed. Once you have a set and an injective mapping to a countable set, then that set is countable. You have already solved this as an exercise before. Please revisit that again. Okay, so this concludes the proof. So every open set in R has quite a simple structure. It's either the empty set or it's going to be a countable union of disjoint open intervals. Many of those open intervals could possibly be of infinite length. That means I'm allowing the endpoints to be minus infinity or plus infinity. This is a course on real analysis, and you have just watched the module on the structure of open sets.